Hello, everyone. I am Oracle Oriah, and today we have another episode with Alastair from the UK, and we will be sharing with you a brewing hot cup of cosmic coffee, and we are just going to go where the wind takes us today. So, how are you, Alastair? The last I heard, you had a tooth yanked out. Is that correct?
I did, yeah. I'm back right lower wisdom tooth, which was fun. So.
And how long did it take you to recuperate?
Well, it was a week today, and it's still pretty sore. And
is it going to be hard for you to talk?
No, never. I'll worry about that later.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know, out here in California, I don't know if you know, but we're having a record heat wave, triple digits, the entire, there's a lot. Basically from Southern California to Northern California, not only are we on fire, so like Northern California has actual fire lit by lightning bolts from a lightning storm. Not only that, but our temperatures are between 100 and 106. And then in the desert, it was recorded first time in history of the planet, 130 degrees in Death Valley. Now, I don't know what that breaks down to in Celsius. I would think 70, 80, 70.
I've actually got a converter app.
Yeah, you have to convert. So put 130.
That was 54.44 degrees.
You know, like you set your toaster oven to like cook your...
Yeah,
so
cook the planet.
So that's the hottest recorded temperature on the planet, 130 degrees in Death Valley. So just up the valley, just an hour from where we live, it rises 10 degrees. So if you go there, it's much hotter. So I'm by the ocean, so it drops 10. It's still really hot. And the houses along the beach don't have air conditioning because typically you don't need it. So we have fans going. So we've been dealing with that. So it's like California is, I think there's a little bit of, California is doing a little kind of temper tantrum about, I think, the politics, because everything is very political here. Since we are one of the biggest states and we have the most, voters. So California is like literally on fire.
Yeah, things definitely seem to be heating up in that sphere.
Yeah.
From the looks of things, to kind of, to stay in keeping with the theme of the show. So yes, it does seem to be getting a little spicy.
Now, do you know your people, well, Harry, just Harry, and Megan, my people, I know, but I have to say it, they moved in to a place that's near where my kids live.
No way.
So am I going to run into them?
Possibly, maybe.
I can't share my opinion of how I feel about that whole thing because, we'll just
I'll talk about it off camera.
Yeah,
but not on camera.
We'll talk about it off camera. Oh my gosh. So you guys, as the show continues, you see Alastair and I are just getting comfortable in our what are these seats? They're like, I think of, let's see, it could be the Tetris. It could be, what's the Star Trek, the Falcon for Star Wars. It could be.
Yeah. You're on the Enterprise, maybe?
It could be the Enterprise. So what vehicle are we in today? What are you feeling?
I'm not going to lie. I've just had a very clear vision when you were saying, it's like, what are we sat in? And I just saw these like shafts of crystal light, and you sit into them like a teardrop, and you get carried off. That
reminds me of on VR. If you have the Oculus, which is Oculus Quest, you get, when you do, and we'll make sure you get one somehow. There's a setting where you can be in any different type of movie theater, and you can sit in a theater and watch a movie with someone else in their avatar. So we watched Ghost in the Shell in 3D in a spaceship floating in space in a theater with the cosmic solar system above our heads. So it's definitely worth the investment. If you want a long life, If you want to live
Yeah.
a long time, you need to experience this,
Yeah, I'm up for that. That sounds pretty fresh, to say the
right?
least.
Because you can have all of what you just said, you can actually experience it. So I want to share with you something that happened on our Starseed group, which is United Starseed Connections group on Facebook. And this week I was laying a little low. It was my husband's birthday yesterday. And by the way, thank you, Alastair, for such a lovely tarot reading. He loved it. He was so touched, and he said it was so accurate and so good.
Oh,
So
no way. It was my pleasure. It was a pleasure to do that. So
So
thanks for asking me.
Alistair is a fantastic tarot reader. And you are you an intuitive tarot reader, or do you follow a particular spread?
No, I tend to just use the card as triggers, really, because as you, just for the sake of our viewers at home, I'll explain what I do. Um, I use I use the cards as leaning into the symbolism of each card. So the symbolism, and then with the court cards, the different elements and the aspects and their position in the procession, and then the major arcana stuff. You know, kind of a lot of work with archetypes and all of that in a big swirling ball, and just I'll do spreads if people want spreads, but I tend to just kind of put a number of cards down and see what the overall vibe is.
I
And
mean,
then,
I love intuitive tarot because I feel like you are really getting a portion of the reader's own intuition involved in, and you're just not reading the symbols. You're actually going deeper in to the
yeah,
full meaning and whatever those symbols mean for you. And you've been feeling Odin and Merlin lately, which is high level magic. And I have been reading about Viking history and watching Viking shows and learning all about how Viking history was created because I have family in Copenhagen. So, you know, I have definitely Viking history. I feel very Viking most of the time. But I saw how they rewrote their history, Alistair. I didn't know that. So there was a Viking that was educated enough that he was able to write Latin, and he was the first one to stop writing in the runes and write on a parchment paper. And he was the first one to write the Viking lore. And he said that the reason why, and it was said and speculated, the reason why the stories were so grand with the Viking gods and goddesses is because in all the lands during the 600 to 800, I think that's BC, right? The Egyptians and the Romans, and I think there were several other neighboring countries were making, I think Grecians, Romans, and Egyptians were making fun of the Vikings because they saw them as these mountain men that were just scavengers, and they were so frowned upon, and they were made fun of for being uneducated like animals, basically. And they didn't have the technology the other countries had. And so it upset the Vikings. So this particular guy, and I can get his name later, this guy who was considered the smartest Viking, he wrote the story of the Viking history. And he was the one who first created these very extreme and elaborate gods and goddesses and Odin and all of them. And he took a lot and borrowed stories from other cultures to create Viking lore. And now throughout history, it's moved its way through different kinds of occults, druids, and all these things. I just found that so fascinating.
it's interesting, like, because on a couple of levels there, we've got the something I got really stuck into, like late last year, early this year, was all of the mythology is the same everywhere.
Right.
And so there was this kind of this idea of like, where are these common points? Where is it that the circles will overlap each other? Where is the truth, man? you
Right.
know and so from that perspective, the idea that he borrowed from all of this other mythology to create their versions of the archetypes and this stuff, I think it's fascinating that there are these truths in these characters.
Yes.
And we have that representation and the stories and the energy that each of these beings represents. I think it's just kind of, I could talk about that for about 4 hours, so I kind of have to sort of pull
Me too.
myself back
I'm
a bit.
actually going to give a shortcut into something I discovered. So some of you who don't know, or many of you who don't know, my husband is a trance channel, a full trance channel, psychic medium. So every weekend and once a week for the last 10 years, he channels spirit guides, and many have come through. And many times Merlin has come through, which many people feel are, you know, that's a fairy tale. It's not a real person. How can you channel that? And then Odin came through once in a group of 40 people, and, or was it twice? No, it was once. And the whole house, I thought the roof was going to lift off. It was so loud. And so one day I asked our regular message bearer, his name is Chief Red Eagle, who actually lived on the planet in the 1800s and fought Andrew Jackson and came to Riz 13, 14 years ago and introduced himself. And since then, Riz has been channeling him. So he came through as a regular, and I asked him one time, can you please explain to me mythology? So Merlin, Odin, like all these characters, can you explain to me how they can channel through you, through Riz? And here was his answer, which I thought was fascinating. He said, these characters existed in another realm, and they were channeling through the beings here. And the information was given to the humans here, and the humans wrote down what they were told and what they saw in their visions. And that these characters actually exist. Merlin actually exists in a collective, and by the way, collective consciously, we want him to exist. So we also brought him into fruition, just like we wanted Buddha to exist. So we all are co-creating these events and co-creating these characters that we want here on the planet. You don't know, Alastair, and I don't know if people have, in history, our ancestors co-created me and you to be talking here today, that they thought it was important that we were here.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. So Odin is a real, you know, and then what is God? Okay, so that's a whole nother show. Which actually is a great segue into...
Oh yeah, let's do the message post, sorry.
So I loved right after, in your comments, after this post was written, after I wrote it, you said this is a great subject matter for a show. And it's because there was some people who got triggered, and I had to block and delete them because they got kind of vicious. I can't control what happens on other Starseed groups, and I did share it to like 24 other groups. And of course, every now and then I'll go check to see, and in between all the fishes and all the wonderful exploration of this conversation, the sharks were there, which they were very angry. They didn't like this post.
Is that because it popped their precious stories?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, we can't do that.
Revise our thinking on things, God forbid.
What was your first thought when you read the post? Do you remember it? So the title is, jog your memory, the title is, what would you do if you crossed over and your spirit guide teachers greeted you and said, and then I read the whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and read it so our viewers can follow along.
I'm just pulling it up on here.
Okay, here we go. So now imagine you're crossed over. So now you're out of the human body, you're on the other side now, and you are greeted by your teachers, your spirit guide teachers. So they come and say, greetings, great job, you did excellently, and welcome back. The only thing you failed to realize is that you were in a school designed by you and others to help understand self-creation. You were on Earth to understand how to socialize and how to be kind to your avatar and to help other students become more effective creators. You were starting to learn how to coexist and learning how to be more precise. I need my glasses. That's why I keep stuttering. Oh my goodness. Let me get my glasses.
We're doing a serious show today. We both got the specs on.
Oh, yes. My dog found my glasses and chewed them. So they have holes. Okay. Okay. So you were starting to learn how to coexist and learning how to be more precise, but you kept thinking that the earth, the cosmic creations and games were all that there were. You would never awaken to the fact that you co-created it with your classmates, so you can learn how to manifest and how to create your desires and how to learn, but knowing the whole time that this was your classroom. But not to worry, you're getting closer. Your next reincarnation, you can be a different skin color and gender and change your circumstances to help you awaken next time. Don't worry. Remember, it goes fast. You only have about 80 Earth years, a blink of an eye before your body starts to decompose. You can try to keep it regenerating as long as possible. And remember, you have wisdom teachers and shamans on the planet. Seek them out and try not to, they try not to blend in. And they may be in plain sight, so keep your eyes open. They are graduate student teachers of this creation course. They will show you the final pieces of the puzzle to awaken to your God self, that you are the creator. So Godspeed, dear heart. We love you. We will employ some more guides this time and your ancestors that you created that will help you. They will be more involved, don't worry, and louder so you can hear them very clearly. Make sure you leave a lot of signs for yourself this time to remind yourself what you're doing. We know it's not easy to accept this reality, but you have to go back. The best advice we can give you is don't learn by pain this time. Try hard to set limits on how much you will allow yourself to entertain and pain, and switch quickly to a more efficient way of living that's pain-free. So you will have better outcomes and can control the direction of the flow of creation so you can have more fun. You struggled a lot this last lifetime and you were constantly disappointed and depressed, so you didn't get too far, or at least as far as you wanted to go in self-acceptance. But now you seem to have determination. So this might be your last lifetime. So feel good. You are supported. You have tried to wake up in so many lifetimes and you are so close. This next one, make it very clear that you have succeeded to yourself. Give yourself as many opportunities as you can to fail so you can get really angry so that you can finally get control of yourself this time. That should really work. Be as mad as possible at your parents so you can let go of blame really fast and early on in your life. So you could just focus on yourself for the rest of your adult life. Put yourself in situations that you want a lot of experiences, so you have to work very hard for it. It will help you learn how to take yourself seriously as a creator. And once you're all set with the right gender and maybe gender confusion, and you have your nation of origin and familial situation, we will set you off on your course. Remember, don't take your life don't make your life too easy on yourself because you might stay asleep. Oh, and not too hard on yourself because then you might refuse to wake up. So just enough amperage, right, Tesla, to get you activated so that you will awaken to the grace, your grace as a creator. And we love you. Oh, and don't get too distracted from the messages from priests and starseed players who share timelines and predictions and duality, because it will keep you very small as you try to navigate through that fear game and not realizing that you created that game and they created with you. Remember, you want to feel big and strong so you can successfully wake up powerfully and last the duration of your lifetime. So only listen to people who teach you the power of now and the power of creation. Stay true to your heart and love your fellow man. And okay, you got it. Get ready. Close your eyes, and you are now entering into this new timeline that you created. I can even add more to this one. This is just the bare bones.
So what didn't people like about that?
It took the fun out of the warrior story. You know, the warrior story is so attractive. Who doesn't want to be a warrior? I mean, it's so seductive, and it's sometimes it can be kind of sexy. Like you have the Jedis, you have the samurais, you have spiritual warriors, love warriors, fear warriors, light warriors, dark warriors. It's all fun, right? You play figurines, you go to the store, you buy these little toys, and you have little wars. And they've been doing this since the beginning of time. So it's really exciting to play war games and warrior games, whether it be in the physical or non-physical. I think it just gives people something to do and something to be excited about, and it juices people up. But you take that away and they're bummed out. Now,
they're missing the fundamental point.
Yeah.
In that everything is some degree of a battle, but you learn the vibration of that movement and you slip into the sweet spot and move with it. You're right. I've seen this a lot actually, where people saying this is a war, we've got to do it. And I'm like, what the fuck? Come on, like, don't be ridiculous.
You know, I'm not one to take toys away from kids. I don't want to take toys away. I don't. Like, for instance, there's people in my group, our group, that see star seeds as, you know, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Orions, they see us as the end all be all. We are the highest as you can get, and then it doesn't go past that. But if you keep continuing with your studies, you'll see that it goes past species into just energy, right? Conscious energy.
Yeah.
So some of us like this, and we like to come, like, play back and forth in those worlds. We like to go into the God self world. We like to go into the Pleiadian world, the Arcturian world, and we like to have fun there. But I like knowing that I have the freedom as a creator, that I can go into any world I want. I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone when I tell people you're just energy, don't worry about your starseed lineage. But at the same time, I also want people to have fun. So I have, as a teacher, I've had to learn how to speak to all the different worlds that people live in. Because for those that don't know, I've been a shaman for 10 years. So there's some problems people have when you take away the tension and duality stories. Like, even, for instance, lineage. So Arcturian may not get along with Syrians or get along with Pleiadians. Or maybe they're stuck in the war that there was between the Syrians and the Orions, or, you know, and they like those conversations. Now, what happens if I come and take that away from them and says, don't worry about that, just go to energy? They feel sad.
The whole structure they've built their life around is pointed out to be pointless and therefore not sound. And you wouldn't base your life around a structure that isn't sound, that cannot withstand stress. Some of these people are hanging their lives on a narrative that's like building, you know, a house of cards on a windy day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to imagine if you were in a classroom and you're a teacher yourself. So imagine if you have this class of kids that are all in different stages, right? So some kids are still playing with toys, some kids are into books, some kids are onto, like, doing science projects. So if you're a teacher in that classroom, you want to teach everybody and you don't want to make any of these stations wrong, but you don't want to alienate. So, like, you don't want to say, yes, it's only about the toys, don't worry about science. Or it's all about science, don't worry about the toys. So it's like, how do you keep everybody's perspective big enough to where you can see that you're creating all of it? How do you do that without alienating?
It's very difficult, because when I was teaching in college and that kind of thing, working as a lecturer, I was an advocate of streamed classes, so where everyone was operating in the same kind of level. So there was a trend in kind of secondary level education, so like 11 to 16, to put all students of the same age together rather than students of the same attainment. And I find that really difficult, because when you remove the possibility of being wrong, even though we're dealing with subjective truths rather than objective fact in this conversation now, when you remove the ability to make something wrong or something incorrect or something that falls short in some manner that is important to the progression, the motivation of the learners was totally different to those learners who were under those conditions. So I'm kind of on the fence in terms of this style of delivery, and that I feel that, yeah, we should be able to talk to everyone, but maybe there's some things that we can't necessarily talk to everyone about at the same time, all of the time, just some of the time.
So what I agree with you, and what I have found was I have to literally go with just strict intuition and how I navigate. So on my page, for instance, I'll talk a lot about starseed lineage, and I'll talk about you know, where we're from and the characteristics and pictures of aliens, and it's all legit and it's all good and it's yummy information and everyone has fun. The only thing I'll take out is people believing in the war games, the light and dark war games. I'll just have to be very strong with people there to just have them understand that they're creating that. That's the only thing. But I'm not one of those teachers that come in and say, listen, we're all energy beings. Forget about everything else. Don't pay attention to anything else. We're just energy. Because there are people, those are the people I had to block. A lot of those people were just like, you know, I'm not allowed to talk about creation. I'm not allowed to talk about we created species, we created earth games, like, people don't want to hear your power of creation.
But people are so willing to give the keys of the car to someone else to drive it for them. You
Isn't
know,
that interesting? You give them the actual codes that tell you, don't you want to know that you are co-creating with everyone? Like, you have the power. Doesn't that feel good?
I mean, let's face it. This is why all the Gnostics were burnt hundreds of years ago, because they were preaching this idea that we all have that connection of divine energy within us, and we all have that power of creation and manifestation. And even like, we've got the. I wanted to kind of ping back to something you said
Sure.
about 2 minutes ago, if that's okay. We were talking about the war games essentially. There's something interesting that's come across my radar while I've been doing my, exploring of the groups and conversations across the internet and everything. There was in where do I start with this? About a month ago, I went to a channeling circle. Someone was channeling an Arcturian, which is very interesting, and they were talking about a lot of activity at the end of August. And there was me and a couple of other people from the group that we're in. We were all in the circle and we were all like, no, there's something not quite right. It doesn't quite resonate. And as time has gone on, as time has passed, as August has passed and the back end of July passed, we kind of look at it and think, actually, like, maybe there is something going on here. And there's been a few people who are talking about this is, I'm going to break the cardinal rule number 1 of channeling, which is don't give specific predictions. And, well, at least as I perceive it anyway. Talking about the Thursday the 27th being the correlated date to the Ethiopian calendar, which is the calendar that the Mayans use, which would put next Thursday as the 21st of December 2012 by the Mayan calendar, coinciding with the tailing off of the Virgo portal, with Virgo being the keeper of secrets, and what has been unseen will become the seen. And everything, just these kind of little conversations, little things here and there, little breadcrumbs, and then I'm kind of sat in the middle going, oh man. I think we're in for something interesting and on a consciousness level, and if we're stuck in this kind of light versus dark mentality, how are we going to know? It could be like a really quiet little, hey, over here, come on, have a look at this. And everyone's like,
I think it's a very personal activation when you have an activation. It's personal, obviously. So you're feeling it for yourself, and some people don't feel it in the big, grand finale kind of experience. It's a quiet adjustment. It's a quiet tweak of consciousness where you have a different perspective. I get those all the time, and I'm not necessarily feeling like the earth is shattering when that happens, but that's just me. Other people might have grander experiences. But by the way, I'm just used to constantly recalibrating. I'm always changing. This is what I wanted to say. This is a belief I have. I want to run this by you. I really, truly think this is my own personal calculations. Okay. So I want to see how you feel about this. So people say all the time, when you're born, how come we forget? I mean, some people don't forget. So crystal children, indigo, your mind is still, your third eye is still open. You're still very connected. But a lot of people by the age of 10, going on to 12, you have forgotten why you're here. And the programming has begun. So you're indoctrinated into the matrix. So you believe what your parents believe, what society tells you, etc. School, the news. So by the time you're 10 and 12, you've already been pretty locked in. You're cooked, right? Mm-hmm. So people ask all the time, they're like, but why did we plan in our consciousness and our higher selves, why did we create us coming to the planet and not having information? Like, why are we not at 10 years old saying, no, this is not the way it is, and holding true? Some people do. I want to say there are an exclusion. There are people that do remember and do hold the line and stay there And those are the minority. So the majority of people over time, over history, just don't remember. So far, do you agree with that statement before I go any further?
Yeah, I have some thoughts, but should I save them for the end?
Yes, if you can,
Okay,
because I'm just
yeah,
going to tell you why I think this is why we don't have a memory.
okay.
I believe, let me see, I've never said this out loud, so let me see if I get this correctly. I've always believed this. I believe that we are programmable beings. And how I know that is because I was programmed into the matrix and I've had to reverse engineer and reprogram myself. So that's how I know we're programmable. So I believe that as little beings, when we came to the planet so open and ready, we had signed up for or agreed to come with only our operating system. So basic information, the 5 laws of the universe. Love yourself, love thy neighbor, be kind to yourself, the planet, and animals, take care of your being, breathe, live, live to evolve, no destruction, try to keep, your, and I'm not saying that exactly how I would, it's just the energy. This is, you come with this basic understanding of get along well with others, children, getting along well with others at a young age, like preschool, loving each other. There's like innate, we come with love. People have tried to tell me otherwise. I was not born from love. I've had people tell me this because they've had deep trauma and they've tried to convince me in the crib they felt no love. But that's also just programming in their memories, because all children, I have raised 5, all children come with the same operating system. We all have come here with love and an understanding to get along well with others and to share and to give. It just comes with the program. So that's your basic understanding. But what happens? Because by the time you hit 10 years old, you're outside of that. You can still have some of that running in the operating system in the background, but you'll start changing. This is where we start fighting, wars, separating, ideas of good versus evil, all of this steps in. So why does that happen? So my belief is that we come to this planet with just our hard drive and whatever information we have from past lives that we have coded into our DNA that tells us who we are, technically, like things we need to work on, things we need to release. So we come with a kind of a prepaid package. Like we purchase our own, not prepaid, but like we have our own package DNA that we brought in from other lifetimes. So it's like our own little tight little DNA package. So now we're 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. We're starting to open our frequencies. Our brain is starting to activate. We're starting to communicate with other people, take in information, process what's happening around us. And I think what happens is we're coming from a blank slate. This is why people say, how come we don't remember? What I would like to offer is that we have no data. Every lifetime we come with a new clean slate. We still have our DNA package, which is our operating system, but we come with a new, it's like we come with this brand new package, brand new operating system, like brand new computer, and we're here to program ourselves. So what people think is like, why is the veil there? Why are we blocked? My understanding is we are programming ourselves on the spot. And my proof of this is that just take your day yesterday, Alastair. So just think back to everything you did from the morning until night, right? Now I want you to, because you're a very aware person and very hyper aware conscious person. So if you go back to yesterday morning till yesterday night, just think of all the things you thought about and think back to which of the thoughts were new thoughts you've never had before. Now, are those thoughts that you are self-generating because you're calculating things and putting it together? Are you just reading those things and taking it in and saying, okay, that must be what it is? Or are you processing and understanding, how is this working? Can you speak to that? Just yesterday.
I mean, for me, I believe that we are the receiver rather than the transmitter. So anything that is new, to me, I believe that is like a radio signal that we're picking up, you know?
Right. Now, if you get 3 frequencies, one of them is a duality frequency from a lower vibration, or let's say 2 frequencies that you're picking up. One is a fear-based frequency that's coming in from a lower vibration. Another frequency is coming in, it feels better, higher vibratory, and you like how it feels in your body. You make a personal choice right there, right?
Consciously or subconsciously, yes.
Okay, so
One or the other,
you decide at the end of the day which one you want to pick.
Yeah.
That
Whether
decider, okay,
choosing.
what'd you say?
I said whether I'm actively or passively choosing, I'm still choosing, you know.
Exactly. So the person choosing is the one, I believe, is the programmer, the one that's deciding this stays, this goes, this stays, this goes. I'll accept this, I won't accept that. This is coming through, sounds like me, is matching in alignment to who I am. I'll keep this. This I'm not going to keep. So that person that's making that decision within you, whether that's your higher self or whatever that higher being is of intelligence, life form within you, or is you, is, I believe, the one creating your reality from the day you were born. And we just are tapping into this science, this, like the quantum field. We're starting to open the doors here so we can take a better look at the inner workings of how we make decisions and why we make choices. So every time I tell somebody to not believe in stories of duality, who I'm speaking to is the decision maker in you. And it took me years to locate myself in that way, to figure out who I was, because I was a sheeple. There was a time when I was a sheeple. I don't know if you ever went through that, Alastair, because you were raised differently than I, with much more open sense.
I'm going to say there was not really any kind of fitting in, really. But, you know, sometimes you try to fit in and you're just like, this is complete bollocks. You know, I can't buy this.
I mean, I think overall you had a more of an open-minded childhood. I think you were taught things by your parents that were not what everybody else was learning.
In some respects, yes, but in many respects, no. Because there was, with everything, there is dogma, there is construct, there is this, and we come here in such a manner that we have the opportunity to break free of that at any point. And
when you break
my
free,
challenge,
my
challenge was moving beyond that very specific approach and that construct, and using that as a template to then move beyond.
So that's very interesting. You used 2 really strong phrases. You said break free and moving beyond. Those are 2 activating words. They're action words. So
there's no evolution otherwise, and surely generationally there needs to be evolution.
So now something informed you of this, that there is such a thing called breaking free.
Yeah, I just didn't agree with it. It never
didn't resonate.
No, because there was some. For me, I've always believed that everyone's the same, and
But do you see that comes from somewhere, right? This understanding.
Yeah, it's just a universal law, like you say. But
universal law.
You know, we can be open to the possibility. There's 2 things. It's like the knowledge versus wisdom. Wisdom, we already know this stuff. All of us, everyone on the planet knows it, whether they want to admit it to themselves or not. Or you get the knowledge keepers who are the kind of like, you know, and read all these books just to pretend to be clever, when really there is no wisdom there. It's just anyone. Wisdom is putting it into practice, and some people can find their new modality and moving beyond stuff just by making something or taking a different decision. It's like you say, it doesn't have to be grand. You know, it can be a very small act, a very small conscious action of someone doing something that elicits that positive feeling in them, the feeling good, the value, true value.
So you probably have memories in recent years where there was something said to you that was like the missing link, or like it was the missing puzzle piece that locked in something you had been waiting for or knew about, but it confirmed it. And then that set into motion an entirely new way of living. you might have changed a lot of things. You could have changed your job, you could have changed where you live, you could change your partnerships, whatever. Something activated you and you went, aha. It was like an aha moment. In those aha moments, those moments are where I feel like you're coming from your original self, your authentic original self, and you're asking yourself if this matches me, if this matches me, is this matches me. Like in partnership, very easy to see it there. When you're in partnership, you try to attract somebody that matches you. That's the whole point. People have a laundry list of all the qualities they want in a person, but what they don't realize,
it's bullshit.
you're not going to get that laundry list, especially if you're not like that at all yourself.
Make a fucking robot and be done with it, you know? Like
that's what they really want, is a robot anyway.
Yeah, well, of course, they just want to have their own selves validated so they don't have to do the work and don't have to change. You know, that's it.
A more advanced way of looking at it, if you're trying to attract a mate, is you look at your best qualities and try to find somebody who's the most like you so that you can have your, you know, your alignment. It's a natural, organic match. Well, this is easy to see in relationship, but if you look at it in every other aspect of life, you'll see that you're always making these little decisions. So when I read that post from Facebook, what I was saying is your spirit guide that's greeting you on the other side is basically saying, so how did it go? Did you end up believing that you are the creator? Did you get to that point yet? Because if you didn't, and you still believe that you are at the effect with the victim mentality, you're at the effect, you have no say, then you didn't get it yet. That this is a creation class. There's, you know, what's happening on the planet right now over the last year is the quote unquote veil. Okay, so everything's been now transparent, everything's lifted up, and so now coming to the surface so we can see what's going on. Some people already knew about this. Now it's available. Everyone is looking at what everyone's doing in different sectors and different systems, and everyone's freaking out and thinking the world is coming to an end. But those of us who understand creation and understand that these are all created games, systems, stories that are being lived out and played out, just like if you're playing a video game, we realize that these are all just a bunch of souls working out all of their stories, conversations, past lifetimes. I don't have to experience what Trump is experiencing. Trump is experiencing what he wants to experience from his own perspective. That's his life.
I don't want to talk about Trump. Like I don't want to talk about him at all.
It's like in Harry Potter. What's his name?
I'm just fed up of like the crap that half of the sort of consciousness community is coming out with right now. The shit that people are sending me on private message and tagging me in.
Can you tell me a couple things they're saying?
Oh, just this whole kind of like, dude's going to save the universe. Right? Let me fucking say this, right? Cast your mind back. Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, right?
Who I was just watching yesterday.
Madness. Is it Hulkamania or Macho Madness? It doesn't matter because it's both the WWF. This is the thing that people are not acknowledging because they're handing over the keys of the car. They're still in this dogmatic thinking of, no, I will be saved. No, we're all going to suddenly evaporate and end in this paradise, or we're going to be in like a
why can't we look at it like you are already saved?
Because people they aren't ready for that level of emotional responsibility, because that means that they have to face up to the possibility that every experience we've ever had, good and bad and in between, we have agreed to, we have created the conditions, or it was part of an alchemical process of decisions that we have made or not made.
Right.
And it's like staring into the abyss. So it's much easier for someone to go, no, you're going to fix this for me. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And I can sit back and carry on my phone and drinking my beer and watching the Kardashians on the TV and not caring about reality.
Right.
it's like as if this idea of the utopia, it's already here, but we haven't been in the garden for a while, so we got to do some pruning. But the
Tell me
pruning
about
starts.
people who get, now there's another version of people who get mad at, so let's say they find out everything you're saying, and then they get mad about that. And then they go on Facebook and they write all these messages to people and they say, we all chose this, get over it. Like, own up. This is co-created, just get over it. Like, they have no soul, no love, there's no compassion. They're just like, deal with it. Just deal with it.
Because
what do you think about that?
those people are hurting and need to heal, really.
Right.
Like that's the issue, because they're, it's very easy when you start like asking questions about the nature of reality and consciousness and spirituality that don't come in conventional delivery systems. It can be very easy to start taking on the archetype of the outsider, that narrative, and then you grow all precious. You start wearing black turtlenecks and reading beat poetry in coffee shops and talking in riddles, wearing sandals in December, all of this dickhead stuff, And
it's so true.
you get so wedded to that archetype that the minute when someone's like, do you not realize like everyone's kind of hanging out in this cool place, the music's good, the food's good, it's warm, there's free drinks, all your friends are there.
There's
when you come in and it's like, no, I can't come in there, people like me don't do that,
Right, exactly.
Just...
I mean, Alastair, this is what you and I are all about. This is why we're here. This is why we're doing the show. This is why we're both teachers. This is why we connected so fast. That's why, and you have, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've definitely noticed we're very synced up psychically. We are kind of navigating in the same waters, always having kind of similar experiences in different parts of the world, because we're kind of going through the same like understanding of like communication and what people need to hear. And yeah. What I'm noticing is that there's we're kind of on the front lines, which I definitely feel that feeling of being on the front lines and saying the non-popular thing to say. We're not really saying things that people want to hear, but on the other hand, there's people that are very happy we're saying these things. And they're like, yes, please say more of this. This is not the popular conversation, but it's the one that's needed, which is, there's nothing wrong with all the games, and there's nothing wrong with all the contrasting stories and all of the different layers of things that are going on the planet, and, yes, there's evil and bad and violence and destruction, and it's horrible and everyone feels pain. It's not that we're impervious to that. I don't feel that I'm made of leather skin, and I don't feel the plight of children, the plight of people dying and all this. Like, of course, I feel all of that. So it's not that we're being numb to it, turning away from it, acting like we don't understand or believe or not accepting these realities. It's not that. It's just that we pulled our perspective far enough away that we're seeing that this is all a creation. This is a large creation of learning about how to co-create with each other. What about if you found out, what about if all the televisions and all the internet, all the laptops and cell phones and all media stopped and had the same programming across the board to 7 billion people, and everybody got the same message, and it was, this is the message: stop, everyone, and look at your fellow neighbor and realize that why you're here on the planet is only to work out how to get along, how to accept each other, how to love each other, because we're all different, coming from different species and planets and different places, and we're all co-creating this together because we want to learn to communicate and become one whole collective consciousness where we can all activate together and create the paradise that we want. Why do you think there's 8 Earths or more? Actually, scientists have come up with, technically, there's thousands of other Earths that have similar terrain.
Sorry, my laptop's just running out of battery, but technically there's infinite if we think about it.
Yeah.
Because if we're kind of going into the multiverse theory...
Wait, I'm going to wait till you come back.
The universe, if we're going into the multiverse theory, then technically there's infinite Earths based on every possible combination of actions and decisions.
Right.
So, I mean... it's just frustrating because again, you know, people are just wedded to their stories, and the problem is like we're seeing in the political narratives that I don't really want to go into. And you challenge people on their story, they're so wedded to it, they then defend it when presented with evidence to the contrary.
But do you want to know that it turns into another version of a war? So
Well,
now,
yeah, of course,
now you're
of course
now
it
you're
is,
having a
because
spiritual war. How is that different from religious wars of the past?
it isn't, because people are just, you know, fighting each other with their minds and in opposition, and it's all about the energy that's generated from that crossfire of ideas and people just trying to get what they want rather than thinking about does the advancement of my person come at the expense or benefit to those around me? I mean, ask yourself that question. If everyone asked themselves that question, then we might have a position where things are quite different. But they won't, because they don't care, because it's all about service to self rather than service to others. There's already been so many instances of this
So
already across history. And here we are
what if this
again.
conversation is about finding oneness? Maybe that's what this whole thing is about.
I would say so, because, you know, from the, you know, those life between life regression therapy studies, they say the ultimate goal is a journey back to the one. So if you view every lifetime here, like you say, as a school, you're putting that gold into the fire to burn off the impurities. That's your life lessons. You know, and the more conscious you are of it, the quicker the process is, or the less work has to be done to it, you know. Um, and I don't know. I mean, because you imagine everyone gets a text message saying everyone's one, everyone's the same, it's about oneness. How long would it be before someone goes on Twitter be like, oh, this is some kind of hack, somebody's like hacked my phone, this is the agenda.
Exactly. I mean, first of all, I don't think people really understand really what oneness is, obviously. Um, I
No,
mean,
they don't, because they think of it like this, you know, in these terms, not the expanse.
okay, so oneness, I will say, I will take one for the team. I'm going to give my definition of oneness, and then you give your definition of oneness, see if they line up. And if they
It's
do,
nice to
then
see that we're
the
going for
experiment
the.
has, if we line up, then the experiment worked.
It's nice to see us tackling the simple questions on our show.
Yeah, and simple is what we want. We want to go back to basics. So, okay, oneness. For me, oneness means allowing others to be, allowing yourself to be, no judgment, allowing freedom and peace to permeate all of the self, and freedom for expression, and yet holding space for everyone in love.
I mean, that's quite more, there's more words than mine, really. I don't disagree with it at all. I think it's very good. It's everything. Um, Mine kind of thoughts towards it is essentially it boils down to four lines, which is this is kind of like more of the human version of oneness, because that's where we're at doing the human thing. Um, Take no shit, do no harm, be excellent to each other, and party on. That is.
I am going to demonstrate oneness right now with what Alastair said by doing this. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
There you go. We just demonstrated oneness. I think where people get caught up is they say, how can I be one with the child molesters and child killers and dog killers and animal killers? So how can I be one with that? So here's my answer to that very age-old big question. So let's go back to the classroom. So let's say there's 20 people in a class. 5 of those people are doing damage and mutilation and violence. The other 15 people, 5 of those are holding space for the entire class. The rest are fighting amongst themselves about how to get the other 5 to stop being violent, right? So this is how oneness works in this situation. What happens if you get 15 people on the same page, holding space and love for those 5? You know what's going to happen.
I mean, I feel like I need more context.
Okay,
there.
I'm not saying pick up arms and defend yourself to protect yourself from those 5 who are being violent in the class. What I'm saying is do whatever it takes to create an organized experience. So those 5 people, yes, are contained because you don't want them to kill the rest of the class. So they have to be contained in some way. Rehabilitation, whatever it takes. But if the majority of people are standing, so look in the, you'll see it clearly here. Look in the political structure. So if you have a majority of people that are holding strong alignment into peace and love and intelligence and rehabilitation and evolution without war, without violence, but we continue the conversation. So this is where the warrior idea comes in. Are we supposed to take up arms, be a spiritual warrior, go fight the light and the dark? This is where you have to hold the line. Because Alastair, in a million years, I really don't see that you're going to take up arms. I really don't see that you're going to go fight the darkness with your sword. I personally can't see.
That's not my role here.
Right. But what if we had a majority of people were like you?
I mean, at the risk of sounding like an egotist, that would be pretty cool.
I walked you right into that, didn't I? I didn't mean to.
That's all right.
Okay, because that puts you up for like, no, I wasn't meaning it in that way. But yes, what I'm trying to say.
The thing that would be the best would be if everyone was just able to entertain 2 opposing viewpoints without having an emotional response.
Okay.
Because then we can work from there.
Okay, because then we can bring in sanity, intelligent choices, evolution of like reform. Basically, that's reform. So whatever systems we have in place now, we want to reform those systems and make them more advanced. We need to upgrade all of our systems, our monetary systems, education system, prison systems, political
everything needs to change.
Everything needs to be upgraded. And we all are realizing that. What we're trying to say, what I'm trying to say, is if you remove this very heavy tension duality, then you don't feel the need to take up arms and you don't feel the need to go with your warrior and your sword to go fight the cause. What you're bringing to the table is education. You're bringing to the table intelligent communication. There's a peacefulness that you are speaking from.
There would also be, like, if that was the construct, there would also be a way to identify behaviors, ideas, and inclinations in people before they start doing the crap stuff that hurts people as well.
Right. And it starts to get less.
Look at solving the problem generationally rather than immediately.
Now,
immediately, like when. Sorry, immediately, some of the things you meant, there is no solution for that other than to just segregate, contain out of the way. We can only really work with this kind of reformist thing with people who have open minds, are willing to do the work, people that are younger in terms of educationally, to instill the ideas that will allow people to open up and speak.
In your
because
opinion,
it's not talking.
Sorry.
That's the problem. That's okay. It's not talking that's the problem. It's the idea that people do crap things to one another. Usually tends to be there's 2 camps. There's the camp of people who are troubled and need some kind of intervention early in life, or there's people who will do what they can because they think they can get away with it. So if we're moving beyond duality, the second group of people will just cease to exist by right.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question for you. What country do you feel has come the closest in understanding this as a collective community? What country do you feel that this idea of what you just said has come the closest, more than others?
I don't know if I could answer that question with a degree of authority to do it justice.
I'm going to throw this idea at you. In the Swedish, Norway, Netherlands, that area. Scandinavia. Here's something that I would like to offer that sounds very unusual, but technically the history of these people started out very rough, in this very rough terrain, very rough agricultural terrain, hard to farm in these rocky, windy, cold conditions. And also, it was just very difficult to live. And it became, the Vikings who came from this area. So imagine your theory, what you just said, your structural theory of how to create a new paradigm. These people actually did it, if you think about it. They went from Viking scavengers into some of the most peaceful community and evolved ways of living in a relatively short period of time. Their countries are smaller and they got everybody on board. And over the years, more and more people kept living by this law. That's why they have low crime rate. Their educational system is always improving and always the cutting edge. It's always moving in directions that we wish we can do. But because their community is smaller, it's more contained, so they can get the collective together on these conversations. Like they have community living. There's so many buildings of community living. Have you, I think in Denmark,
yeah,
they have these beautiful homes.
I've partaken in community living myself for a bit as well.
Yeah, where there's there could be up to 30 families. The children have communal schools there. They share kitchen services. I mean, it's beautiful. The community helps and serves each other like it should be, So I really, there's a part of me that I would just pack up and move. I mean, I really wish I could in a way. And I'm seeking it out here in LA because I have things to do here, but my heart and soul is with that type of living. So imagine if the whole world starts.
Well, this is very interesting that you mention this, because for a number of years now, I've had the strong feeling that the future is in the smaller nations because there is more cohesion.
I agree.
The time of superpowers is over.
Thank you very much.
It has been for a long time. And this kind of jockeying for position and exploiting smaller nations, and how out there do you want me to go? I've not had.
I know I've gone down this rabbit hole, so you can go as far as you want.
I haven't had my strong painkillers, so I am compos mentis. So this is kind of very reflective, but the idea there's many traditions that say that the world is here to serve us. There's many people that say, oh yeah, we're the top of the food chain. This mentality is gone. It is finished. COVID has killed it, and everyone that's getting themselves in a twist about that is actually missing the point of the lesson. In that this is a cocoon, we transform, we come out the other side individually, different, more realized, and then collectively that's when that is the shift. People talk about a shift, it's a very gradual sway, and the whole idea that the time of mega nation superpowers is over is because they are interested in product. They are the product. The nation is the product. We are the best, we are the greatest, we are this, we are this, we are. And it's not about process. Process is the future. Process is organic. Process is alive. Process means that the vision of the future could change every 100 years to move with what questions we're presented with at the time. And it's at the moment, it's the smaller nations and the ones that aren't entrenched in their own ancestral nonsense, like the conversation in the UK has been for the past 4 or 5 years. We're Great Britain. No, we need to look beyond that and do different things and employ different systems and become more in harmony with the land and nature and our environment as we are of this earth, in a manner of speaking. So the further we become separated from that, the further we move above it, the further we move from eco into ego, the further we go there, the worse things are going to be. And we can see this in the response to the COVID. I'm quite happy to sit back with a glass of wine in a deck chair for a year and a half, read all the books, do some courses, come out of this with some art projects under my belt, and all those kind of things that I want to do.
Right.
This is my time, man. It's just like, here, man, there you go. You want to do this now. Then that sets the tone for the rest of my earthly life. I'm doing the things that I want to do because I've enacted my personal sovereignty, rather than thinking about, I'm going to start waving a flag and do this and be invested in these ideas. I'm going to invest in myself. Big nation thinking doesn't necessarily encourage that. It encourages that thought energy to be directed towards a flag, an idea that isn't our own, an idea that maybe doesn't serve us anymore. So to move towards this Scandinavian model would be great. I've been spending a lot of time in Portugal, and there's something about it that is just, it speaks to me, it speaks to my soul, They had this big recession, so they poured initiative into creativity, small business, grassroots, from the ground up, not from the top down. You don't have the big corporate brand sign comes and appears and everything comes down from the sky. The solution is from the ground up, and we only see that in the smaller nations now. And, I'm sure that will change as we go, and that is my hope. Because just because I'm saying, the time of superpowers is done, doesn't mean the world's going to suddenly flip on its head and then we all ping off into space, or we have no more electricity, or there's no internet, or we can't get food. That's not going to happen. It's the idea that we can take this framework and maybe we start thinking more about how are the lives of our neighbours, the lives of our town, the lives of our community, versus what is this billionaire doing that I would have no whiff of getting to a whisper of this vacuous lifestyle, but here I am defending it. And
go ahead.
No, so please.
That was wonderful. Speaking of superpowers, I agree to every single thing you said. I feel exactly the same way. And speaking of superpowers, there's something that's going on here in the US, especially, I'm going to say in my state, I'm not sure how it is in the other states, but I think it could be the same. No one's talking about it, but I'm going to bring it up. So in the stores, except for the grocery stores, but retail stores that we have a Target and different kinds of furniture stores, the supply that's available is 50% less than ever. So the shelves are 50% less filled. So one day I went to go buy a bed frame for my daughter, and I went into a furniture store, and the guy was very frazzled, and he just blurted all these things to me that I didn't know. And I think it made sense as to what I think is going on. So he said to me this: good luck in finding that headboard. I have 2 in stock and 1 in the showroom floor, and that's all that's left of this model in the whole US. This is what the big problem is for us right now, is that we're not getting new manufacturing in, and our warehouses are being depleted from the products that we do have, and there's no more products coming in to replace it. I'm so frustrated because now when a customer asks for a bed frame or something, I have to go onto a national registry to see in all the warehouses in the US if one is available. We're running out of supplies. That's all he said. I walked away from that and I put 2 and 2 together. So that means that our biggest manufacturing export is from China. That's where we're getting our goods because it's at a low cost, right? So it can pass on to us. So we're not paying really high rates and we buy more things. So very quietly, I have been noticing in all of the big chain stores, the retail chain stores I've been going into, they have reconfigured the displays, how they're putting the displays. There's more room to walk around, less shelves, and the shelves have less items in it. Even with the new inventory coming in for the seasons, it's still less. And some of it's repeating from last year because I know some of the decor. And I've been asking my friend, I'm like, am I crazy or is everything changing in retail, but no one's talking about it? The employees are acting like everything's fine. No one's talking about that. There's only 10 towels on the shelf, not 100 like usual. So why aren't they replenishing it? And I started to realize these big chain retail stores charge us very little, like our price point is very low. We don't pay very much money for a towel. We're buying a bath towel at $10, right? So the bath towel is $10. It comes with some cheap fabric or cheap material that's made from China. It comes in bulk. They pass the savings on to us. So we only pay $10 for that towel. Now, here's what Walmart, and here's what these big retailers don't want to tell us. They don't want to say, excuse me, we're no longer doing business with China. So we have to go to Africa. We have to go to South America. We have to go to other countries to get material. India, our costs, our shipping costs and our labor costs are going to be definitely higher. So now when you come buy this towel, and you're not going to get it at the same supply and demand as before. When you get the towel now, it's going to be $30. We don't want to tell you that's coming. We don't want to let you guys know that because you guys are going to freak out. Because you're not going to be able to afford the things you're casually affording right now because our relationship with China has completely changed. Not only COVID, but politically. So I just want to let you know that that's going on under the surface and no one's discussing this out loud, but I want to bring it up now because this is going to turn into something because I don't see it getting better. It's not going to go, China's not going to just immediately like, okay, it's over. So let's all just get in bed together and let's continue where we left off.
Well, why would it? You know, what did Napoleon say? Leave China be, for she is a giant, and when she wakes, she will shake the world. You know,
in the 70s, my dad used to tell me that.
It's, you know, this has been going on for years. This is why Brexit is like the UK with its. I can't say that. That's really rude. This is why. Rewind. This has been happening for years. This is why Brexit in the UK is total nonsense, because essentially everything got outsourced because it was cheap. And now we're like, oh, we were fine in the 70s, but actually everything got sold. You know, it doesn't work like that anymore. So it's interesting because how are you going to look at that situation? Like you're saying, you know, there's not as much stuff in the shop. Is it a good thing? Probably, if we then look at what is near to us, look at what we can buy again. It's like the Pringles paradox, isn't it? Who would trust a symmetrical snack food? Because Pringles is the same every time. Each one you pull out of the tube is the same.
Do you agree that in the last 20 years, the way people were purchasing merchandise was so unconscious and so out of control that we're buying things that we didn't need and just filling our homes? And why in the 70s, it wasn't like that. We were careful what we bought.
Why is it everyone's grandpa could fix what was in the house and now we call a guy if something goes wrong?
Right, exactly.
You know, people
so
say, oh,
I feel we're going to go back to being conservative in that nature. I think we're going to be more careful how we spend our money. And I think we're going to be careful if we need all this excess. Is it really necessary? I think it's going to change.
Fashion will be over because you just can't produce a collection for every season anymore.
Well, they're doing, okay, so the answer for that's already started. We're doing, and I was in the fashion industry, so I actually was doing the same thing. So we're doing recycled wear. So we're changing, we're just using the mountains and mountains, the tons, the thousands and thousands of tons of clothing that are sitting in our trash piles, these massive amounts of fabric that are eating up just our carbon footprint. The fashion designers are starting to realize that we have to recycle our clothes, and we have to go back, and we have to make new designs out of that, which is happening. And it's become a movement that now they're getting awards, are going out to the top, the eco fashion designers. And I was one of them. I was up and coming before COVID, and I had to shut my doors, but that's what I was doing. But yeah, I think everything is going to change. Manufacturing is going to change. Labor is going to change. Merchandise, how we purchase things. I don't know why no one is talking about it. It's like this little bit of a coma effect. People are walking around the stores a little bit in a daze. They don't understand. People are wearing masks. Everything is different. You're standing 6 feet apart. You're buying things, and there's not a lot of it. And you're not questioning or saying anything, which is weird, because everything's different, and you should acknowledge that. People are just waiting for people think that all of a sudden it's going to just be different again. How is it going to be different? We're nowhere near being different. We're nowhere near going back to normal.
It's Christ complex versus Christ consciousness, in that really we all need to connect with that consciousness. But we're all waiting for the Jesus figure to go, well, my children, I have returned. You have been good, you will come with me. You have been bad, you have to listen to Kenny G for 50 years before anything good happens to you. You know, is this again, you know, the keys, hand them over. Everything changes for you. You don't have to do anything. If we...
I have to interrupt you because I have to go in 5 minutes, because I have a show at 12 and I need to get ready for that. So what I want to do is, that point you just made was so fucking powerful. I'm going to let you wrap that and finish. And this is like going to be the message. So we can create a goodbye message from what you're saying, because you're on a really good point.
Okay. And then should we do a little pose? We've got a nice picture as well. Okay, so what did I say? It was handing over the keys to the car was when I started. Okay, so handing over the keys to the car. Everyone is waiting to be saved, but they're not willing to save themselves.
Right.
And they're not willing to analyze what they're doing. They're not willing to have their beliefs challenged. Their worlds are becoming very, very, very small. They're in this spiral, and then ultimately... that is a dark path to go down, because everything is changing. This is a time for collaboration. It's not a time for competition. This is a time for unity, but unity is not just some term. It's actually like looking, how can you have these really intricate exchanges with all the people around you in your life? How can you change the way you're working, the way you're eating, the type of vehicle you have, your engagement with reality? And just ask yourself, look at it all and say, do we really need all of this crap? Everything, end to end. I'm not on about material. I'm on about dogma. I'm on about political ideas. I'm on about institutions that have been designed to keep us in small boxes while the structure gets bigger, 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 and we defend it because it's familiar. The answer is no, we do not need all this crap.
And you know, I want to also add to what Alastair is saying. This is not a what we call in the spiritual, say that. Oh gosh. Okay, so the spiritual community in LA. Ew, that sounds super gross, but okay. So, so I can't even barely say it. So the spiritual community in LA, they tend to, when they start giving their doctrines, which could sound very similar to what you said, they follow it up with this Nazi style belief that if you do not do what you just said, then you are a part of the problem, and they take up arms against you. So what I want to say is, what Alastair is saying is the highest consciousness you can live in. It doesn't mean you need to feel guilty if you go buy the extra towels. It's just bring more awareness to why you're buying it. That's all. Just bring awareness to, are you recycling your goods? Are you being more aware of what's coming next? Can you wake up into Christ consciousness? Is what Alastair is saying.
That's it. And just to kind of ping back in quickly, we could sum it up even more in saying it's about finding your balance, not balance. Because there is no such thing as a universal balance. There isn't one shoe for everyone. You know, you get your shoes. And even if you believe in the same thing, your shoes are still going to be slightly different from the person stood next to you.
Thank you, Alastair. I'm so happy that we did this show today. I'm glad you're feeling better. And this was a very important show. I think we just need to keep going on these particular topics because this is very, very needed. So if any of you have any questions, please reach out to us either here on YouTube, or you can reach out to us individually on Facebook through United Starseed Connections group, where we have our personal profiles, but you can talk to us. And if you need more information, also don't forget to subscribe and like and share so we can keep this going. This is all just an act of love. We don't get paid for anything. This is just because we want to share this information. So this is, you know, this for now, this YouTube platform works. It's probably going to change. I'm looking into other platforms. So we may move into another arena in the future, but right now this is where our home is. So, but thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. Namaste, and we love you.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.